The anime story begins when a man named Ikta Solork is relaxing under a tree with his fairy light. He meets a woman named Yadarashino Igsum. She is the daughter of the Igsum family who is one of the commander-in-chief. Then they together go to the ship to go training military. On the ship they met Haroma Beckel, who has a water elemental fairy. By the way, in this anime, every human has a fairy who protects him. There they also meet Matthew Tetrich, who has a wind fairy. Matthew is Ikta's old friend. There is also a man named Torway Ramian, who has a wind fairy. There Yutori introduces the possession fire fairy and they all become roommates. Their ship suddenly rocked, and the lights went out. It turned out that there was a storm outside. They were forced to leave on a makeshift boat, and there was one small child with them. After that, they took shelter in the cave. Turns out, the little child who came with them was a third princess of the Kujvarna kingdom, whose name was Chimail Kitra Kujvarna. Then Torway and Ikta went to look around. It turns out that this is the territory of the Kyoka Republic, which is their enemy. After knowing the circumstances, they figured out a way to escape, and they had about 2 days to prepare it. They looked for food, set traps, and Ikta also made a place for him to relax. While relaxing with the princess, we saw the enemy's hot air balloon patrolling. When night fell, Ikta met with enemy soldiers. He claimed to be running away with his family, and the soldiers believed him, but it turned out that it was all Ikta's trap, and the soldiers were immediately killed. There is one person who is still alive, and we immediately dig up information from him. Feeling guilty for endangering others, the princess tried to commit suicide, but was prevented by Ikta. The next day, they find the hot air balloon used by the soldier they defeated. After that, Ikta and company started their plan. Ikta, disguised as a Kyoka soldier, reported that someone had escaped with a hot air balloon, even though it was actually empty. Then he pretended to catch his friend as a prisoner who escaped from another kingdom, and Ikta took his friend out of the Kyoka Republic and they reached the territory east of the kingdom of Kujvarna. It turned out that the eastern region of the Kujvarna kingdom was going to war with Kyoka. Ikta immediately opposed it, because according to Ikta the war would be futile, but the lieutenants didn't hear it. They still wanted war. 1 month later, we heard the news that the eastern region had fallen to Kyoka, and the general had died as a result of the war. And the lieutenant is considered a war hero, but we think that every hero died because of overwork. Then, Ikta and his friends were summoned to appear before the Maharaja. They received the title of Royal Knight for helping the princess. Ikta was furious to hear that, because his ideal of a leisurely life had been crushed, because a royal knight had a high rank, and was obliged to follow military law. When Ikta was angry, the princess said the name of Ikta Seirei, who was the father of Ikta Solork, who was one of the generals in the past. Then it was also known that Ikta's teacher was the great teacher Anarai Khan the blasphemer. After that, Ikta confided to Yutori that this was the worst day. The 5 of them plus the princess finally entered the military academy, so that they qualify to become royal knights. While in class, even though Ikta is asleep, he is able to answer the professor's questions, and the answers are beyond everyone's expectations. While traveling outside the classroom, Torway and Matthew met Torway's brother, and his brother bullied Torway, but apparently Ikta, who was sleeping on a tree, threw a centipede at Torway's brother. And Ikta pretended to be beaten, so that Torway's brother was secured by the officers. 3 months later, they were each assigned the task of leading a platoon of royal soldiers. And it turns out, the high-ranking members of the Ikta group are the children of Ikta's ex-girlfriend. Because of that, the Ikta platoon members ostracized Ikta. A few days later, a war simulation was held. The team would be divided into 2. Ikta, Matthew, and Torway were in one team. In the other camp, Yutori, Captain Sarahazurg, and Lieutenant Sushirov, both of whom were Torway's older brothers. After knowing that, Ikta made a deal with his platoon members. If Ikta's tactics can win the war simulation, then Ikta will be the leader. The next day the simulation started. Even though it was raining, Ikta became the leader of the joint team, although many doubted him. Ikta showed the way without looking at the map. He only had the knowledge he had. And as a result, Ikta brought his troops to the riverside, and that was not a place they shouldn't be, and that made the opponent panic. After arriving at the river, the opponent did not dare to go forward because he thought that the river was deep, but suddenly, the Ikta team attacked first because the enemy did not know that Ikta had put a bridge in the river. As a result, the Ikta team won the first stage of the war. Then in the second stage, the opposing team tried to set a trap, but it was read by Ikta. They were trapped and Team Ikta finally won the fight. It made him recognized by his platoon. platoon. Then the princess suddenly disappeared. It turned out that the royal guards kidnapped the princess. With Ikta's tactics and the ability of the Yutori sword, they were finally able to save the princess. The scene shows the past when Yutori and Ikta were little, where Yutori went to Ikta's place. There was Anarai's teacher and Ikta's father. There Yutori saw them doing strange experiments. It turns out that Yutori has never had friends the same age, and Ikta is his first friend, and they played together, but when they were in a barn, they were surrounded by wolves, and they couldn't get out of the place. Then, with Ikta's intelligence and Yutori's power, they were finally able to escape even if they had to destroy the place. After completing the war simulation, they carried out their usual training. Then they got a mission to go to the northern garrison. There is a Sinic tribe, and Ikta had gone to that place as a child. The moving scene shows a soldier in the northern garrison named Kana. They finally arrived at the northern garrison, and were greeted by Lieutenant General Seifida. Then they partied. There was also Major Shukushiram who would guide their activities. Then Ikta met with First Lieutenant Senpa Sazaruf who would be their instructor. Then there was a man named Diankin who had the best sword skills in the northern garrison against the sword Yutori, and the result was that the Yutori won. The next day, they did a training led by Lieutenant Sazaruf, but suddenly Ikta disappeared. It turns out that Ikta went to the books, and there were soldiers who tried to steal the royal books, and Ikta managed to prevent it. Then Ikta met Kana, but while chatting, Ikta was caught by Lieutenant Sazaruf for running away during training. The next day they went on a mission led by Major Shukushiram, and Ikta turned out to be hiding in the freight train so he wouldn't get tired of the road. Then Ikta met Kana. It turned out that something was wrong in the northern garrison army. Belonging to the Sinic tribe was captured by the army there so that the strength of the Sinic tribe was reduced. After that, the scene moved where Major Shukushiram was going to meet the regional leader, but it turned out that the higher-ups had died, and there were many Sinic tribes there. The scene moves where Ikta is very happy with Kana because they both have the same mindset. Then there was a gunshot. Yutori then rushed to the major's place. It turned out that the major had been killed by the Sinic tribe. After that, Yutori chased them. Ikta and Kana also went to the scene, and they only saw corpses. When the Yutori are chasing the Sinic tribe, they find that they have been absorbed by the Sinic tribe, and the Sinic tribe asks for their fairies to be returned, but Yutori knows nothing about it. Then the chief of the Sinic tribe declared holy war. After hearing that, Lieutenant General Seifida declared genocide. Ikta and company discussed about the war, and according to Ikta, the war was controlled by someone. The war has finally started. The Ikta platoon is placed in a different place with the Kana. The Ikta team is assigned to carry goods at the point closest to the front line. Ikta realized that the front line was in critical condition. The scene shows Kana's group at the frontline camp. At Ikta's place, suddenly the warning bell rang. It turned out that the enemy was carrying out a night attack, and they finally fought, and it turned out that it was just a diversion. It turned out that the enemy's real goal was to attack the front line, the place where Kana was, and the front line camp had been captured by the Sinic tribe. Ikta devised a strategy to capture the camp within an hour. The strategy started with a long-range doorway attack, then they charged from the enemy's blind spot. And we were captured at the front line. Then Ikta and his friends went to the camp. It turned out that there were many corpses from the front line troops, and there Ikta saw the corpse of Kana who died due to the invasion of the Sinic tribe.
Sayonara, Kana.
The end of the war is near, and the soldiers of the kingdom of Kujvarna are preparing their troops as best they can, for the final war. And the war began again. The soldiers went through the mountains on horses, and it turned out that the Sinic tribe was ambushing them from above. And they all got into a fight. The leader of the Sinic tribe named Nanak targets Lieutenant General Seifida, but Yutori blocks him. Then they fight, and is won by Yutori. It turned out that the war this time caused the Diankin to die. Then Nanak ran away, and he saw his hiding place on fire. The scene shows the past when Ikta was in the Sinic tribe. He befriended Nanak, who is now the chief of the tribe. Back in the present, Nanak saw soldiers killing his tribe, and against him, when Nanak was dying, Ikta came to his aid. It turns out that the Kyoka Republic is involved in all of this. Then the Aldra inspection unit came to meet Lieutenant General Seifida. They arrested the Lieutenant General for the wrong done to the Sinic tribe. It turned out that the Aldra inspection unit had already prepared a large army to attack Kujvarna. Then Ikta advised most of the troops to withdraw, leaving only 600 Kujvarna soldiers, while the Aldra inspection unit had 12,000 soldiers. Then Ikta apologized to the chief of Sainik, and as an apology, Ikta cut his finger. Then the chief of Sainik realized that it turned out that Ikta was his childhood friend, and the tribe of Sainik forgave Kujvarna soldiers. After that, Ikta persuaded the Sainik tribe to work together to arrest the Aldra inspection unit, and they agreed. Now the Kujvarna army has increased to 800 people. After that, Ikta and Yutori were promoted to first lieutenant, and Matthew, Torway, and Fragranta were promoted to second lieutenant. The next day, the Kujvarna soldiers set fire to the forest to hinder the local inspection unit. In this attack, the strategy of the regional inspection unit was drawn up by a person with the nickname of the brilliant sweeping general who was the major of the Kyoka army, Jean Arcanex. Then Jean felt that there was someone on par with him who was devising the strategy of the Kujvarna kingdom. After the fire in the forest began to extinguish, Ikta ordered the Kujvarna soldiers to block the road in the forest. After nightfall, the Kujvarna army prepared to guess the Al area inspection unit, and the first wave of Al area troops was defeated. And the Aldra wave troops then helped, but the Kujvarna soldiers managed to escape by burning the forest again. As a result of the war, Matthew was seriously injured, and several members of the Ikta platoon were killed. And the Kujvarna army now has 500 men, while the Aldra inspection unit has 10,000. Jean manages to get information about a powerful soldier named Yadarashino Igsum, and he thinks that the Kujvarna strategy was created by Yutori. Then when everyone was restless, we had time to sleep peacefully during the day. Moments later, the enemy began to move. They took a detour. The Torway troops and Lieutenant Sazarov were ordered to confront them. Then Jean got on a hot air balloon to check things out. After seeing the hot air balloon, we devise a strategy to buy time for a week. And Ikta started a random motion defense operation. And the strategy battle between Ikta and Jean for 7 days began. And Ikta was always ahead of Jean. However, on the 6th day, Jean changed his strategy, and managed to push the Kujvarna army. After that, Ikta changed strategy. Ikta ordered Matthew to take the lead in the command center, while Ikta, Yutori, and Nanak went to the front line. As night falls, Ikta ambushes Jean, by hiding under the enemy's feet. And the enemy forces were crushed by the attack, and the Kujvarna troops raised the flag of negotiation. Because of the urgency, Jean ordered his troops to stop. Finally the two troop commanders, namely Jean and Ikta, finally met. Ikta suggested that the two armies make peace, but Jean refused because he felt his troops were superior. Because Jean didn't want to make peace, Ikta threatened to have Torway the sniper kill Jean, even though Torway wasn't there. Fearing the threat, Jean finally ordered his troops to withdraw. And the whole area inspection unit withdrew from the war. After the war, Ikta fainted, then the enemy kidnapped Ikta, and Yutori fought with the kidnapper and managed to win him. And finally they all returned to the kingdom. Lieutenant General Seifuda was sentenced to death for his actions. This anime scene ends with the princess asking Ikta to reach the top of the royal army, in order to improve the entire kingdom. This video ends here. Thanks for watching this video. If you like it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, to support me.